I remember my homiletics professor in the seminary who taught us preaching, and an old saying that he had. He said, "No preacher in his right mind would preach the gospel on the Sunday following November 22nd, 1963, because people coming to church that day had other things on their mind, namely the assassination of John F. Kennedy." This was before 9/11, and I remembered his words, where he probably would have said, "No preacher in his right mind would preach the gospel on the Sunday following September 11th, 2001, because they would have had the terrorist attack on their minds." And I hear his words today as we come together today, and him saying no person in their right mind would preach the gospel when people have other things on their minds as they come to worship this Sunday. However, there might be a line from today's readings that might be relevant with all the frenzy, the uncertainty, the craziness, the panic, contradicting news and so on that people are hearing regarding the coronavirus. The gospel ends with the name of the site being named after the sentiment of the people in the desert who ask, "Is God with us or not?" And yet we see that there are many signs that we can cling to in which we can say, yes, there is a God and He is with us, and perhaps even during the worst of circumstances. Among those manifestations that God is with us are the people who proclaim a faith in God. Now, we have been hearing a lot of very frenzied reporting and frenzied responses to the concern with the coronavirus. Yet we as a people of faith have an opportunity in this to manifest that presence of God in the midst of this by simply not losing our heads, by getting a grip, by snapping out of it and not allowing ourselves to join the general panic that we see around us. Last week I walked down to the Walgreens just down the street to get medication mainly for cholesterol, nothing dangerous, nothing chronic, nothing contagious. And I thought to myself, I'll just walk down the aisle where you see the cleansers and the cleaning materials. And as I expected, it was completely barren, completely sold out. Going out, I walked down the aisle where you find the hand towels and the toilet paper, and as you guessed, completely gone, completely sold out. I wanted to call my stockbroker and ask him, should I buy anything, because I can make a killing with what's going on out there. And I don't want to downplay the concerns that we have for the virus, but even just yesterday, to give you a little background, next week I am taking my long incoming Christmas break, the days we get for Christmas, from not including the weekend, so I'll be back by next Sunday. One of the things I was going to do was go down to Los Angeles, where I was going to participate in a program that is a series of lectures for the season of Lent in the city of Simi Valley and in Whittier. However, I got word on Friday that by the directions of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, those events have been canceled. I've been participating in it for a number of years now, but again, to avoid large crowds where people could contract or spread the disease, they opted to cancel. So I'll simply be going home to my parents' place. However, disappointed that I won't be able to visit some of the people I knew in my previous parish assignments when I was in Los Angeles. I made a few phone calls, did a few FaceTime chats to call and see how people were doing. Of course, schools are closed. Many people are working from home. But I saw kind of the range of reaction to what's going on, from a family with 5 children, including 2 young twins, who said, "Yeah, Father, if you get a chance to come on by, come on by. We're home, we're fine, we're healthy." To another family that is in complete lockdown mode. And of course, we see the reactions in between. And the things we need to remember, especially as people grounded in faith, is to avoid extremes. We don't want to be so panicked as to be completely incapacitated. But we don't want to be cavalier and reckless. But especially we want to be people who are above the kind of rhetoric we've been hearing that are designed to cause a panic and designed to direct that panic or direct those feelings in a socio-political agenda, let alone one that is based on concern for one's health. As Catholic people, we have this opportunity to be an example, and an example that's grounded in faith. And the fact that you're here this morning demonstrates that. Maybe you'll spend the rest of the day at home, just relaxing, not going out. But you still at least had the personal courage to come today to worship God as we are called to on Sundays. And that is something people look to during times like this, is the courage of the church in the midst of times like these. And part of the courage of the church is not just the courage of the priests and the other ministers, but of you, the people, in the midst of this. An example of people keeping their heads, keeping calm, acting responsibly. And with luck, people will see that, and they will recognize there is God in our midst. God is with us. Because in the midst of the frenzy, we have people of faith who are grounded in that. And we have a number of opportunities, not the least of which is we are in the season of Lent. The disciplines that we are called to exercise to help fight the coronavirus are not too far-fetched from the disciplines we exercise to fight temptation, to overcome sin during the season of Lent. And I've been saying for the last couple of days, anyone who has been cavalier about the Lenten observances, who really haven't gotten into them for whatever excuse, now's the time to get off your keister and do it. And together, as a people of faith, we have the best weapon in times like this, and the weapon of prayer, of worship, of offering intentions, offering our sacrifices during Lent, offer our observances. And we can be examples of people who don't necessarily turn to government programs or panic when we see things missing from the store, but we put our faith in God, and we keep our heads, and we bring this to prayer, and we offer our journey during the season of Lent for the intentions that are surrounding this virus. We see this example in something else that is going on in our world right now, specifically in a small town in Europe. This is the 10th year, going every 10 years. It's 2020. Well, one might say, so what? Well, some of you may know, some of you may recall, there are people now who, we'll see if they can keep their reservations, have bought tickets and plane tickets to go to a town in Europe called Observances, who every 10 years has a passion play. Not exactly the way I would want to spend my time. I probably would want to go to Outbreak and then wander the town during the play, when everyone has gone to the play. The town is quiet, almost abandoned, and enjoy an old town and the countryside to which it belongs. But the town has been offering this passion play for centuries because at a point in its history there was a plague going through that region, and they prayed to God that the town would be spared. And whether the town was either spared or wasn't ravaged as much as other towns, the town responded by every 10 years offering a passion play. And it's a legendary event that people from all over the world go to witness. And is that practice for Outbreak too good for us? Not necessarily a passion play, even though during the season of Lent we have the Stations of the Cross, but offering prayer during a time of plague, during a time of pandemic, that we can offer for the good of the people who are enduring this, and that this plague does pass quickly, and that we can endure for however long it takes, and come out stronger with even a deeper faith that we did not fall into a panic or into a frenzy, but take that opportunity as people of faith to offer our prayers and our observances of Lent so that this plague may pass over quickly and not affect us as devastatingly it has, and keeping other places where it has devastated, northern Italy, China, other places, in our prayers for healing and the endurance of its people. That too is an example that we remember this year in 2020 when Outbreak is conducting its passion play in memory of that experience of plague in that particular town. But we have a golden opportunity to be that proof that God is in our midst. Because as people of faith, we are still here to worship God. Even though the obligation has been dispensed by the Archbishop, we are still drawn here, and we still came. That is very much an indication that we are putting our faith in God while still taking the precautions, the basic hygiene practices we've been encouraged to take during this season of the pandemic of coronavirus. But if there isn't any other indication that would convince us that God is still with us, Just the other day, we in the office here came across a story of a saint that perhaps might be a good saint to turn to. And in that we see the irony that perhaps God winks at us every now and again when we do experience things like this, and God's still saying, "You still think I'm here? Maybe this might convince you." That there is actually a patron saint that we turn to for epidemics and serious epidemics. And I don't mean Saint Sebastian. He is one of them, a very well-known saint from the ancient church. But this is another saint from the ancient church who has a church in northern Italy, perhaps appropriately so. She was a martyr in the early 2nd century, and her stories, like most martyrs of the early 2nd century, are maybe not historical, but they are among the stories that are told of the early martyrs. But she too is a saint that is prayed to during times of serious epidemics. And her name, I kid you not, is Saint Corona. And in the words of the late, great Paul Harvey, and now you know the rest of the story.